Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Biohacking Beauty podcast. Today, I am here with the amazing Aggie Lal, also known as your biohacking bestie. Aggie is a very special person. She got famous through traveling the world and got interested in biohacking as a form of self-healing. An amazing person. I just enjoy consuming her content and felt compelled to have her on and to talk a little bit about the challenge, the age reversal challenge that she's undergoing right now, that she's launching, and that I'm hoping many people are going to do with her. Today in this conversation, a few takeaways that you can take is her favorite biohacks, favorite things to do as far as reversal of age and how to do them as well. We're going to learn about her journey and we're going to talk about traveling and biohacking. And maybe last, but for sure not least, we're going to talk about injecting joy and childlike wonder into everything that we do in life. And this is on its own something that is very strong as far as biohacking and longevity, because we know that the number one thing that drives longevity is the relationships that we have and the overall content that we feel about our lives more than any other modality. So this conversation did not center specifically around skin and skin health, but it definitely looked at living our life as a whole and having it manifest in good, youthful skin. And we did touch on a few topics that are revolving around skin aging. Before we dive into today's conversation, I would like to share a review of one of our valued Biohacking Beauty listeners. And actually, I had such a nice time recording the episode with Daniela Schenker, which is the head of Fresh Beauty Center in Switzerland, that I'm going to read a review someone left for her, saying, "Danny, this is amazing. Obviously, expected nothing less from you. Really great info. Keep up the amazing work. Much love." And I agree. She's amazing. And this episode, if you didn't listen to it, I warmly recommend it. And if you haven't done so already, we would greatly appreciate it if you could take 2 seconds out of your day to leave a rating or and review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're consuming this content. Even a one-word review would be amazing. Your ratings and reviews greatly help with the growth of this podcast, which helps us educate and reach more people. Now, without further ado, let's get into today's conversation. All right, Aggie, welcome to the Biohacking Beauty podcast. It's a real pleasure having you on.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I feel like a biohacking beauty already.
Well, you kind of are. You know, it's interesting, and I'm sure we're going to get to it in a second. But normally, when we talk about like biohacking and the effect on the skin and stuff like that, it seems to me like most of the people who are interested in it have already are trying to reverse the wheel, where you are situated perfectly to kind of address things before they become serious, right? Which obviously everyone wishes they had, but you're a good candidate to maintain what you have and not only try to reverse the wheel. So for us as a skincare company, obviously that's the best opportunity. That's when we want to start with a person.
Oh, thank you. I honestly feel like it's one of there's so many things I would like to unpack just with what you just said. Because first of all, it's, I do believe that aging is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we're being told that by 30, it's time to watch out, instead of just like coming from the very place of like, as you're a child, you're not trying to be an adult. You just, yes, take the responsibility and full ownership of your life. But at the end of the day, do not use the childlike wonder, because that's the thing that's making us age. It's not the biohacking. And one of the things I resonated with you guys, that it's like there is a tendency with biohackers to get very serious and very like masculine, anal, excuse my word, about like following the protocol. And I'm like, yeah, but like, what's the point? The point is to live longer. But like, if I have to live in this like military regiment, like, sorry, but I'm not signing up for that. So I think what I really like about biohacking, the way I understand biohacking, is how do I combine my childlike wonder and sense of play and just having the energy to make my dreams come true and travel the world while using technology and science to my advantage? Like, it's, let's just not forget that we're doing all these biohacks and we're like doing all of these things for the just so we have more energy to do the fun things. And it's just the means to a goal. It isn't goal in itself. And so yes, if you're watching this and you're 25, like, great, like, you're still like, you don't have to undo, I don't want to say undo the damage. When I think of the aging damage, is that idea that you need to kind of get more serious as you age, and you look at yourself like, oh, I'm 35, I guess I need to settle down. But also,
Mm-hmm.
like, and if you're 45 watching this, like, forget everything that the society told you to be at that point.
Yeah.
You stay as young and as light as possible, and that's use all the hacks possible. But just remember that at the end of the day, we're here to play and to live our purpose on this planet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know a lot of the times. So first of all, everything you said is like pure gold. We can play it in a loop in someone's ears, and they'll have a better experience in life in general. And I agree with you. A lot of the times when we have conversations about the essence of Young Goose, right? Because a lot of the times you're talking to the marketing aspect, your marketing team, and we try to get to the essence, like, what do we really want to do? What impact do we want to create in the
Mm.
world, in our users? And a lot of it is we want to make them resonate more with who they see in the mirror, because a lot of the
Mm.
times we feel, if we hiked in nature for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, a year, whatever that is, we kind of forget the wrinkles that we see in the mirror. We forget, the limitations that we impose on ourselves. We become our true selves, which really does not change that much as we grow older, unless we make a change. So
Mm.
a lot of the times when I imagine that person looking in the mirror and experience some kind of dissonance between who they feel on the inside and who they see in the mirror, that's the person I want to help the most, to create a change in their skin.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I think it's just like, I always like say, may my biology matches the energy that I
Yeah.
feel on the inside and how I feel about myself, right? That's
Yeah.
so beautiful, like such a beautiful mission, honestly. And I love what you're doing. And I think it was high time for someone to reinvent the skincare. And one of my very good friends is a chemist, and we've been chatting for years now how skincare has been quite lazy when it comes to innovation and technology, because it was been quite abusive when it comes to the customers. Like, when you go to Sephora, you realize that what you pay for and what the big companies with fancy names put inside their product is a ripoff, right? Like, it's just quite incredible that it has been going on for so long. And I think there is this new wave of like science-backed technology that's like, hey, why is no one actually making the best skincare out there? It almost feel like people were holding back, or like, overcharging for product that don't have enough active ingredients or have a lot of fillers or whatever it might be. And again, I don't have enough experience because I'm not a chemist, but because my best friend was a chemist, she really opened my eyes, and she helped me read all the like labels and stuff. And
Yeah.
so I was like, wow, this is like immoral, like, why is this happening? And sure enough, that I'm sure you can relate to that. And I think
Yeah.
one of the reasons
Yeah.
why we got into it, no?
Yeah, and I think it's in many levels. A story that I like to tell, which has nothing to do with skincare, but I think, shows some of the hidden agendas that are going on out there. Is did you hear about? You lived in Australia for a while, right?
Yeah.
Did you hear about the lawsuit against McDonald's in Australia?
No.
So, a person won a lawsuit against McDonald's, which forced McDonald's to admit that they were buying inedible meat that's not meant for humans. It's rancid, it's expired, and they would basically laundry it with chemicals to make it at least not kill anyone. But it's definitely not the best meat in the world, right?
Wow.
So, unfortunately, skincare is as let's call it is as unscrupulous. Like you can have the same active ingredient. Like you can see a brand, not naming any, not
Yeah,
throwing any brand
I'm
under the bus.
holding back a lot, but it's tempting.
Yeah, but like you can see a brand selling, some kind of like a peptide, okay, for, $3 a bottle, $5 a bottle. You're not necessarily risking yourself. Actually, quite the opposite. There's not a lot there. You want clean
Yeah.
skincare that's as clean as you can get, because there's nothing there. So that's why you have difference in brands, even if the formula looks the same. And obviously, we can get a lot into it. There is a lot there, but it is prevalent in every aspect of health that we can imagine. We talk
100%. And I
yeah.
think the best thing you can do with Young Goose, and it's going to be my little challenge for you, is
Go
not
ahead.
only explain to people why Young Goose is good and works and why it's better than other products, but actually help women go to to, I don't know, Sephora and be able to actually read labels, right? Because I was like,
Yeah.
when I go and eat something, I never used to have to read labels. So now, there's this like a little meme. I'm like, how much time you spend in a supermarket? Me actually putting food in my basket, 5%, and 95% is reading the labels. I wish that was the same for skincare, but a lot of times the names are so complicated. We just go and look. I'm like, this is pretty. Oh, this is like what's been recommended on Instagram and whatever. So there is no basis on why certain skincare is good. It's just basically all like an influencer or like a big celebrity is using it, or whether it's Kylie or whoever is promoting it, and you realize, like, when you actually look why it's so much hype and why it's so expensive, you realize there's no basis for it. So my goal would be for women to be so educated about skincare, whether they use your product or not, they have enough awareness and enough knowledge. They're going to go to Sephora, spend 95% of time reading labels, actually knowing what they mean, and being actually, I might be spending more on a more expensive product, but I know it actually will do something. So I can either use soap or just save for a more expensive product.
Yeah. I think first, for sure. And another thing that I think is missing in the industry is like having a budget in general for how you look. Most people are very sporadic as far as what they buy for their skin, for whether it is like procedures or what they put on their skin. And that is not like the best decisions when you're talking about a health of an organ. You should have like a yearly budget. You should, budget out what you're willing to.
But you know why it's like that? And I can definitely relate, because it's like, at the end of the day, we have all bought $400 products that didn't do anything. So I think over time, you just kind of lose trust, and you feel like you become more and more reluctant to invest. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if someone told me like, this skincare 100% will reverse the biological age of your skin, the skin on your face. If you had 100% guarantee, would you be able to spend that money? Then I think that would be a very different conversation than for people to just like, this cream works. Because, there's like, you go to CVS and the cream's like 85% of women noticed better skin. Like that's the claim for every single product out there. So it makes me wonder, like, it's a really difficult market to be in, because at the end of the day, you are working against every single cream that has been lying about what's inside and why it works. And so to make people believe that after all of these trials and errors, like, this is actually the one thing that's going to work, is really hard, and hence no budget, because it's kind of like a guessing game. So it's like, it comes across as a luxury. I'm like, I don't have the luxury to put another product. My bathroom is full of products that I never finished because I just didn't really see anything,
Sure.
just like using them, it's not great. But I have to say, it's been less than a week using Young Goose like consistently, and it's like after day 3, like I go to the gym and I'm like, this is my gym face. This is usually, like it's incredible. And I was like, oh fuck, this is good. We need to do a podcast because I already see the results.
But I agree with you. And imagine that the more you invest, let's say you have $100 budget, for a skincare company. Normal skincare company, 90% is advertising. So $90 out of $100 of the budget. Budget includes, buying raw material, making products, making the box, whatever that is. 90% is marketing. So it's very difficult if you are like 10% marketing or less even. to compete, because they can kind of
And
spin the
that
truth
I
a
know
little more.
you're true. You're right, because my friend who was a chemist, she produced creams for very big celebrities around the world, and worked for very big companies. And when she told me how much is like the cream is bought per liter or per pound,
Hmm.
or like whatever, depending on which country you're in,
Yeah,
and the prices were like incredible, right?
yeah.
I just saw like the margin that people have, and unfortunately it sucks, but at the end of the day, I really believe that women are really waking up, and I think women are kind of bored with the whole marketing. And I think
Yeah.
the modern woman, the biohacker woman, the biohacking queen, is someone who learns how to think for herself and no longer trusts brands that are, as on billboards,
Uh-huh.
and they can use their discernment to actually do their own research and realize that actually, you know for me, like, it's not even the marketing, is the packaging. Your packaging is actually really nice, so like, fair play, because it's like, it has to be like, it's out there, it's in your bathroom or in your fridge. You don't
Yeah.
have to look like too weird, obviously, but at the end of the day, it's like, I think it's like, I see how the change in me, I see the change in my girlfriends, and women are really becoming very conscious and very particular about how they choose their skin products. So I really believe that this is the new era of women that are just like taking full ownership.
I think you're right in a lot of cases. Obviously, women in general, they're getting kind of emancipated. Like you just wrote a beautiful post about the International Women's Day. You're kind of
Oh,
addressing that empowerment of women, which I thought was fantastic. And so that actually, I'm very curious, because you are kind of a jack of all trades. Like, you became famous, documenting travels. You dance, I saw on Instagram. You have many talents, and someone like you kind of travel of the world. I wonder how you met even biohacking. Like, how did it come about that you're interested in it?
super interesting. Well, I think I got into the whole like mindset empowerment slash self development about 12 years ago, and I really liked
Mm-hmm.
that book. Fell in love with Tony Robbins, but then I
Mm-hmm.
got to the point where I realized that, like, there's only so much you can do with the mindset, but if your biology doesn't reflect that, you're gonna feel still depressed, you're gonna still feel confused, you're still gonna feel like being motivated is really, really hard. So then I realized, oh, it's actually quite connected. So I did
Even
this
Tony
thing. I
Robbins
thought,
thinks that now. You know,
huh?
even Tony Robbins thinks that now. He's all about biohacking now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He definitely, like, we both, he got inspired by me. No,
Yeah.
just kidding. But definitely, like, he realized that this is all beautifully connected. So when
Yeah.
I work on mindset and biohacking, that seemed like the natural thing. And so what did I do 10 years ago? I thought I did the right thing and became vegan, And
Mm-hmm.
so after after 5 years of being vegan, losing my hair, have massive like hormone issues, my skin breaking out, losing my hair in patches, and putting on
Wow.
weight. Like, I ran on weight. I was like, wait, I thought I was eating all healthy, having this vegan cheese and
Mm-hmm.
fake butter, and all the things that I thought I was eating, like like
Yeah.
tofu and whatnot. And so uh, you
Cashew
know
cheese or whatever that is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They're like nut butters, and not the nut butters,
Mm-hmm.
but like the soy cheese
Yeah.
and vegan pizzas and everything. So uh, then I was a little stubborn, so I was like, okay, it must be something else. I'm just gonna see if I can do it any other way. And obviously, following up Dave and him talking a lot about like eating meat, I still wasn't convinced. I wanted to be a good person, and for me, a good person meant that, like, me being healthy doesn't mean that animals are suffering. And
Mm-hmm.
then I would hear people say that actually, regardless whether you're vegan or not, there are animals killed in the process, whether they're little rabbits, they're like
Mm-hmm.
insects, foxes and whatnot. So there is no, it's a bit of like a circle of life, that if you're on this planet and if you want to eat and survive, there are like animals like that are being killed in the process. And I came from a place of like trying to do my best to avoid it, to come from a place of like deep gratitude and reverence,
Mm-hmm.
and realizing, well, like, wow, actually I probably can't avoid for bees and foxes and little rabbits to be killed in the process of making an avocado or a
Mm-hmm.
lettuce, but can really come from like a deep respect of how this planet operates, and just like being really truly grateful for it. That's one. And then second, I got really into Weston Price. I don't know if you know, but he was a
Of course.
dentist. Yeah. And he, organ meat. I was like, oh, dang, that sounds like the worst thing on the planet for a vegan. And so it was pandemic and I could never find a liver, but I found one French restaurant that was doing like liver pate. I was like, okay, once a
Mm-hmm.
day, I'm going to have a delivery from that restaurant of liver pate. And within a week, I felt, oh my God, I feel so great, because I wasn't nibbling
Mm-hmm.
20 times a day and I had all that energy. I was like, oh wow, like my body functions very differently. And so not immediately, but it felt like immediately after that I was able to like improve my hair, really heal my skin and lose the stubborn weight that I just couldn't,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get rid of. And that was like the beginning. And, we always have to hit somewhat of a rock bottom to really get into it. And so I've tried everything and, I did everything. My gut wasn't great. I had heavy metals because, I would have fish or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
all of these things were like the biggest gift because I think I went through everything. And plus I'm a total nerd. So I love reading books. And so I think I went to my Audible and I listened
Mm-hmm.
to 400 science books. So you get to a point where you're like, okay, cool. I'm slowly getting a hang of it. And the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know, as it
Yeah.
usually happens. So it's like this funny, like I know how little I know actually. So it's very, it's a beautiful experience. But I think at the end of the day, it's just being a biohacker. It's not about knowing it all. It's just knowing how to ask the right questions.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I want to talk a little bit about the challenge that you have.
Yeah.
You're almost launching it. Like, I mean, it's launching any day now. By the time this comes out, it will be very close. But this is very, it's very unique to me because most of the time, the person who provides a course, provides a journey, is a person that is far removed from the journey of discovery. Most of the time, a specialist in any field, let's say a doctor for that matter,
Mm-hmm.
it means that a long time has passed from the time he was privy to the information until he has become an expert, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can go to the magic number of 10,000 hours or whatever we want there. But what is very interesting to me is that you are, as we go back to that childlike wonder and kind of incorporating it within your daily life as part of the formula to stay young. It's very interesting to me that you are doing a challenge that is coming from a place of discovery. Like, you're still excited about it.
Yeah.
And now you want other people to kind of follow your steps as far as how do you kind of expose yourself to the best
Yeah.
information.
Well, that's a beautiful thing, right? We always feel like we need to become the absolute expert, and that was me my entire life until we actually get to like share it with the world. And I think what has given me permission is to realize that I will never know everything, and no one ever does. The more expert you feel like, the more you. Let me say it another way. I genuinely believe that it's like I never come across in my courses like I know it all. This is exactly what's going to do. I come from a place. Listen, these are the books. This is what this person is saying. This is what David Sinclair is saying. This is what Zach Bush is saying, and this is what I have tested on myself. Does it mean it's going to work for you? No, because we're all different, and we share only 10% of our microbiome. However, look here, like this is just like I think I just help women become curious about their health. And so I present them because let's be honest, a lot of these beautiful books and a lot of podcasts are very scientific and it's kind of hard to follow. And so with my team, and we have like a medical researcher, we go to PubMed and I'm like, how do we turn it into a super simple graph and a super simple comparison that like someone who has 2 kids and a full-time job and is watching my course driving a car actually still can get it? Because even the word mitochondria sounds very, very fancy, and we can go into like all the scientific terms,
Yeah.
and I guarantee every doctor out there would explain mitochondria better than I did. But I got to a point, I'm like, because I didn't understand it, I understand it in very simple terms. So I think the biggest feedback when it comes to my challenges is from my audience. It's like, oh my God, I finally understand what it's all about, right? Because it's
Yeah.
just simplified. And it's like, you don't need to know all the precursors and whatnot to get the
Yeah.
gist of what's happening. And I think my biggest gift with my challenges, whether it's the anti-aging challenge or the one about losing weight, I don't know if I can tell the name, fit as fuck, but it's literally,
Oh, that's great.
yeah, it's literally how to be fit as fuck. And
Uh-huh.
and the other anti-aging one is called Benjamin Button, because I really believe you can age in reverse.
Yeah.
And so I realized, I'm like, cool, like if we can translate this complicated medical research into really easy to digest videos, so they feel like I'm their biohacking bestie, like I've got their back, I'm going to do the boring work and just explain to you. Because at the end of the day, when you read it like an epic book, you want to call up your best friend and just
But then you butcher the book completely.
Yeah, well, I hope I don't. I hope there's a part of me like, but yeah, it was like, oh wow, like I just read, like they said this. So I have one of my best friends that we would always exchange like the best parts about the book. She was reading one book, I was reading another. It was like a really like a book club, right? In a way. So I like to think that like, all the anti-aging challenges, like I know where to look. I don't want to say I infiltrated the biohacking community, but I kind of know like who's the real deal and who's kind of like doesn't know what they're talking about, and I just know who to listen to. And I'm like, yo, this is actually pay attention.
To be honest with you, first of all, I think that's the perfect thing to say. I came from the outside. We say in Hebrew, it rhymes in Hebrew, but a guest for a minute sees everything that's wrong. It sounds way better in Hebrew, but
everything always does, by the way. Sounds very wise. You're like, oh wow, we're neat.
Oh, yeah.
Enemies goes shopping.
Yeah, so I agree with you that the person from the outside could definitely give a perspective to other people who are coming from the outside. Give a much better perspective than someone who's very immersed and grew up in the industry and maybe has some emotional ties to certain people and not other people. So I really like that idea. And in the same breath, I think it's most the question that I get the most coming for people who are interested in health or see me, as we talked off air, I do a lot of contact sports, a lot of rough and macho men, and they the joke is that I look much younger than my age. So the question
it's a fact, it's not a joke.
So the question I get the most is, what is biohacking? Like, what does it mean? Do you get that?
I get that, and I came up with quite a simple answer, and maybe it's oversimplified, but I believe that biohacking is kind of like eating all the food you were always told that you shouldn't have, because you understand how to eat it and when to eat it, and it's also about allowing your body to do its job, because at the end of the day, our body is perfectly fit to cleanse itself and detoxify.
Yeah, for sure.
So supporting its body to do its job instead of interrupting it.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. That's a problem with it. Like if we see a 70, 80, 90-year-old person that takes 20 pills a day, not supplements, like 20 pharma pills a day, what are we really seeing? We're seeing like one medication that helped a little bit but messed a lot up, and then you take another medication to balance those mess ups, and another one to balance the balancing of the mess ups. So really we are like superimposing something on our biology, where it's a beautiful explanation that within biohacking we're really assisting our biology rather than going against it. So I mean, perfect.
And it's beautifully said. And the sad part is that our grandparents are like the first generation that had access to so much of the over the counter medication. And
Mm-hmm.
so, over 100 years ago, you would just use herbs to heal yourself, right? It was just like,
Yeah.
thousands of years. And I recently had a little bit of my ayahuasca journey. It's a plant medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And she came to me and she goes, "Oh, you're so cute thinking you're biohacking. It's like the ancient wisdom that's been out there, whether it's through a tribe or Chinese medicine that's been around for thousands of years, like, oh, I'm biohack and walk 20
Mm-hmm.
minutes. And so, like, yeah, Chinese medicine from 5,000 years ago said the same thing. Like, if you take 100 steps after a meal, you will live until you're 99. I think that's the Chinese medicine principle. And so it's really interesting that we feel like with biohacking, it's like the science based approach to human optimization. But at the end of the day, we're just going back to what the humanity has known for thousands of years. It's our like innate wisdom of how to listen to our body. And yes, sometimes we have to use supplements because the soil is depleted, but supplements are herbs, right? They're plants.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's part of the nutrition that we are supporting our biology. And we believe that the natural state is thriving and having lots of energy. And yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. First of all, if in the, we are used to a world that today we're more advanced than yesterday. So that's our Western philosophy. The Western way we live our lives is like
Yeah.
yesterday is dead. They didn't know anything back then. Today we know everything. But not only that, it's not true. We can see evidences in history where a lot of knowledge was lost. We can talk about the fact that Roman times, the Roman society thrived, and then Middle Ages came, and for 1,000 years it wasn't that great to live in Western society until the Renaissance came and kind of looked at what happened 1,000 years ago and started to build a new society, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you need to be very careful about saying that something is new and a new discovery and that we never knew it before, etc. But on the other hand, I think the opportunity that we have today is that 5,000 years ago we didn't really know why something worked, right? We said, oh no, it's the chakras and the energy of this and that, and it might be the case, but it might be also the case that we built a story around a very successful molecule that if we isolated it and really made sure that we use it at certain times, we're going to get like crazy results.
Yeah.
So we have both the best of both worlds, ancient wisdom and novel technology, and I think
Yeah.
that's like the opportunity we have today.
100%. And I think it's just like, it's like I said at the beginning, it's like just understanding that you get to see like what we all have different microbiome. There's
Yeah.
different theories of how even the very fact how your body metabolizes carbohydrates is dependent whether you come from like closer to equator culture and
Mm-hmm.
background versus closer to the North Pole. I
Mm-hmm.
myself is Polish, so like I don't do well on carbs. Like they crash
Mm-hmm.
me and they're not great. But I know girlfriends that can eat potatoes and rice and they are crushing and they feel great. So it's like, yeah, we are different in a way, and just like there is no one size fits all. And it's also like yes and not yes but about a lot of these
Yeah.
roles.
Yeah. First of all, you're completely correct, and sometimes people raise their eyebrows. I don't know if I agree with that. First of all, there's nothing to agree with. There are genetic traits that we know from, like specific genes that we've been isolated from specific areas in the world and how they interact with food. So just the simplest explanation I can think of is a lot of the predominantly people from Iraq, from the Iraqi area, they can't eat fava beans because there's one gene that they don't have. So and this is something we discovered because it can be fatal. But most of the things that we eat aren't bad for us because they're fatal. They're a very slow poison that
Yeah.
every day just kills us a little bit more. And that might be even worse than having some strong toxic thing that kills you all at once, because we're not, as people, we're really bad at noticing small changes over time. That's why, again, McDonald's still
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah.
So going back to your kind of discovery of biohacking, what's kind of biohacking modalities did you kind of like off the bat? What drew you as far as like technology or food? We did mention food, but like what were some of the first things that you tried and were
Wow. I
engaged
think
with?
the very first thing I tried was the bulletproof coffee.
Uh-huh.
I just was like really interested in the whole idea of having fat first thing in the morning and extending
Mm-hmm.
autophagy. And again, there was an ancient wisdom from, from Tibet that they've
Yeah.
asked people back. And that really intrigued me because, I grew up in a society that told me that be afraid of fat and butter is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
So the concept of drinking butter first thing in the morning seemed wild to me. And it really helped me like heal my relationship with fat and realize that it's, fat does not really make you fat, right?
Yeah.
Of all the things, probably I would just say sugar would be number one on the list. Um, and so that was really helpful. But also, I think it's just like the very journey of biohacking and constantly just trying new things and realizing that's like a mix of like, me wearing my Apollo and my Aura ring right now, but
Mm-hmm.
also doing dry brushing this morning, right? So it's like a mix of like, is this biohacking? I guess it is, right? But just understanding that it isn't. You can use your red light therapy. Like yesterday, I was using a cream, doing red light therapy and dry brushing, and I was like, combining the two like is something that brings me the most joy, and realizing what makes me feel the best in my body, right? So it's like
Yeah.
if there is a practice that biohacking practice that makes me too paranoid, and I think that one of them is checking my glucose with a
Uh-huh.
CGM monitor. It's just I do it once a year just to check like what are my levels. I change my diet every year, like you know what I mean, like we feel like we eat the
Yeah.
same thing but we don't. So it's nice to check. I'm like, oh cool, like how is my body responding to that? But at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, it's just like it gets to a point where we rely. I start to rely on technology and deciding how I feel. Like I don't ever check my Aura ring first thing in the morning. I used to, but then it would dictate how I feel about my day. So I just like check it in the afternoon. How was my day? Oh, okay, cool, good to know.
Listen, you're a great. I'm telling you, if there is one thing I feel that can be learned from you is like your intuitive interaction with, again, with enjoying life and how you take on, whatever endeavor you're taking on. It's I think it's accidentally genius. I'm not even trying to compliment you, but it is.
No, thank you.
Because what you're saying is this: these things, again, borrowing from bro gym type of talk, these things, you know kill my vibe. These things kind of, pump me up. And these are the two things. This is your real Aura ring, right? Like, I don't
Yeah,
want to, check my Aura ring. Maybe I want to get like a weekly report. That's what I
yeah,
do with my. I don't check it every day. I get a weekly report. Normally I also argue with the report. You don't know what you're
yeah,
talking about. I felt
yeah, yeah,
great.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
whatever. But this kills my vibe. I don't want to deal with that on a daily basis. But this, on the other hand, like, this technology really pumps me up and really, gets me going. For me, for example, I I love the idea of an ice bath. For example, I don't only like, how I feel afterwards, but I like that fear I get beforehand, and that it, you know,
Oh,
I think, going back to Anthony Robbins, like, to Tony Robbins, like, the old thing that he used to say was like, to move your body in order to get energy, right?
yes.
And
Change your state.
exactly. And how he said, if you're going to come back after work, you're going to be tired. You're going to sit on a couch. You're going to be very tired. You're going to walk around. You're going to do some sports. You're going to feel great. Kind of same thing with an ice. To me, an ice bath is the best. Like, it's fear that's always there, and you can conquer it. And 5 minutes later, you've gone through the whole journey of fear, conquering it, feeling accomplished. So that's something that, for example, pumps me up. And I think living the life through that interaction is ingenious on its own, and should be, a challenge on its own, to be honest with you.
No, I 100% agree. And I think it's just like, yes, if you don't have an opportunity to cold plunge or cold bath, dip your face into a bowl of ice, and put your hands in, or like you guys
Hmm.
mentioned, right? They like cold feet.
Yeah.
But it's just so beautiful on so many levels. Like you said, first of all, you build trust with yourself. You build a relationship with yourself because you can see that you can do hard things, and so the whole
Yes.
idea of hormesis, so like exposing yourself to good, small, limited time limited stress that
Stressors. Yeah.
helps you manage the big stress in your life, right? So the big stress doesn't seem
Absolutely.
so big anymore.
Absolutely. You raised a separate point that is magical for life. So your word is your bond kind of attitude. One of the things that are a lifelong project for me is that my word should be my bond. Whatever I say, I follow up on that.
Yeah,
And obviously, the kind of obvious thing is that, oh, you're going to have good reputation. People are going to trust you. That's nice. That's a nice add-on. But the real benefit from it is that when you decide something with yourself, you're going to have to follow up, because the kind of you're developing the muscles of your words, and what you
beautiful.
mentioned, yeah, what you mentioned right now, that's something I didn't put into words, but it is that, right? It's like doing a high intensity interval. Your word is your bond training when you go to
Yeah.
like ice bath or sauna or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's at the end of the day, right? Like it's also interconnected whether we are going to the gym or whether we're choosing our healthy diet, even though there is a little donut in front of us. It's more like, I know I can do this donut, but like, will I respect myself? Like whether it's temptation and craving. And obviously, there's a big part of cravings and biology and
Mm-hmm.
dopamine and whatnot, right? And the glucose spikes. But at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, it's just like it all comes down to your own relationship with yourself, right? And
Yeah.
how you treat your body, like how seriously do you take yourself? Because most people
Yeah.
take themselves very seriously, but the wrong way. They can't make fun of themselves, and their thing is like they're the center of the universe. Where
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, they don't take themselves seriously. They don't see themselves as like the main character in their life. They just kind of like a background extra,
Yeah.
trying to shove the responsibility on others. So I think it's really interesting to just like flip that completely. Don't take yourself seriously. We're just all here for like a short ride on this planet, and it's like make the most of it, but also you're the main character of your life.
Yeah.
So this is pretty serious, right? So take that responsibility and just like act accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a really, really beautiful book that I recommend everyone to read, which is called The War of Art.
Oh, yeah.
And this book is really about being the main character. It's obviously about like the book as a whole is supposed to make you not procrastinate, which is fine. But really, what I got from the book is being your own main character, because he explains how all of the destructive or subpar habits that you have in your life are really stemming from your ego trying to compensate uh, the fact that you're not living up to your full potential, or
Oh, very
following
beautiful.
your dream, or something like that. So it's a beautiful book. Like here it explains, religious fundamentalism and addictions to drugs and destructive behavior and everything that you could imagine that definitely makes our world less of a beautiful place to live in. He describes how all of it is by people not living up to their or following their dreams and following their passions, and letting themselves uh, uh, succumb to mediocrity.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
yeah, beautiful book. So let's talk a little bit about the challenge, which I'm very
Yeah.
interested in. Um, could you tell me a little bit about it? Like,
Yeah.
what should someone expect by doing this challenge? How does it look like? You
Yeah,
know?
so I think I like to think that nothing like this has ever been done before. So I combined science videos
Mm-hmm.
where I basically put together all the information, and it's based on what's the right way to eat, what's the lifestyle to extend longevity, what are the supplements, so we have different extras, what's the best routine for the perfect skin, perfect
Mm-hmm.
hair. I've done all of it, and there's definitely like there's how to extend fertility, right, with a fertility expert. So we have all of this, like the science bit, right, like the
Mm-hmm.
the one who's like the nerd and needs the proof. It's all there, like refer PubMed and books and whatnot. So that's one part of the challenge. Then we have a professional hypnotherapist who
Wow.
help us. There's that part of like coaching when we get to the very root cause of like really aging as a self-fulfilling prophecy, and how to realize that, especially for women, like you're a guy, so you can't really relate, but for women, we are being told that by the time we're 40 years old, like it's kind of like our time is expired,
Yeah.
and we're like, again, the background character of what's going on the planet, because we're yeah, we're like old, right? And how to
Hmm.
really heal that relationship with growing older and make peace with that. I don't like to use the word age, because for me, growing old and aging are two different things.
Yeah.
And so we have hypnotherapies that really, like the hypnotherapies that are a hypnotherapist that I work with. She healed herself and many clients from eating disorders, bulimia. And so she really helps you have a beautiful relationship with food, with your own body, and really just empower women. Then we have special meditation and affirmations. Then we have a big part of, I'm a life coach, so I do a lot of the stuff that we use in coaching to realize what's the root cause, like the fear, right? Like what's the
Hmm.
underlying of why you're afraid of aging, and let's address that. We also have workout plans. We have a meal plans designed specifically to help you, reverse aging by anti-aging experts. So there is, it's a really unique, I like to think it's a very unique challenge, because I think I was able to combine both, because I understand a lot of it is a self-fulfilling prophecy,
Yeah.
psychosomatic. How can I address both? I can't just tell people have this supplement, which, by the way, highly recommend a lot of beautiful supplements, including, organ meat. But at the end of the day, if you don't address the root cause of why you're having less and less energy, and you're disconnected from the life force that, and don't have a purpose, then none of this will work.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to combine all of it, because it's not going to tell a full story. And so sure enough, when it gets to skincare, we have beautiful expert Dr. Ann Killen. She talks a lot about stem cells and hair and whatnot, and obviously she talks about the skin, and we have your product as well, because all roads lead to Young Goose. And after doing my research, I was like, I don't want to recommend a specific brand, because I usually make it a point not to recommend a specific brand when it comes to my challenges. But this
Yeah.
time I was like, it's hard not to.
Highly appreciate it. Yeah,
No,
I mean that's what we who we make the products for, right? I'm in love with the way that you think. First of all, it seems to me like you wanted to give people, like, you wanted to give people the fish, and then you understood that they need to learn how to fish,
yeah.
like
Oh,
it always.
beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. And so it seems to me a perfect balance between, like, opening the computer and rewiring all the wires that are loose, and kind of understanding really, what are the fundamental aspects that are not complete. And I think, again, going back to Tony Robbins, I think two things can happen, even if someone has their diet like dialed in, or their meditation habits dialed in, or whatever that is. I think either you're going to learn something new, or repetition is the mother of all skill, right? Or you're going to
Mhm.
just get affirmations that what you're doing is correct. And that's why I feel like going and walking, no pun intended, walking in someone else's shoes, and kind of learning how they see things, is the true road to mastery. There's a reason that, in ancient Greece, philosophers used to kind of talk between themselves, and really gather in communities, and that's where the real discoveries into this human psyche began, because you can't do it alone, and you can't do
Yeah.
it just by in your own head. So yeah, definitely.
100. And it's very like 2010 energy, competition. I'm gonna do it all myself. Look at me,
Yeah,
blah blah blah. And I think 2023, like, um, the new world that's waking up, just sees that, like, no, like, we can go so much further if we go together. And collaboration is the buzzword, and people realize that we all benefit when we collaborate together and support each other versus compete against each other, because it's just such a waste of energy.
definitely. Couldn't agree more. First of all, we are everything that you do. You're a part of a community that does it. Even if you're a loner, you're a part of the community of loners. Okay,
Yeah.
there is a co- in you know there is a old course I did when I was 16, which was called Landmark. It has
Oh
many
yeah,
names.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, it used to
know.
be. Yeah, it used to be EST, the forum Landmark. I did it. Got to do it when I was a teenager, and what really, many things there were an epiphany to me. And obviously, you're 16, you don't have a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah,
life experience. So I was, in awe with a lot of things that we did there. But one thing that really drew me was the fact that we were drawing circles. Like, okay, you have yourself. What are you interested in? This is what I'm interested in. Okay, draw a think of communities that are also interested in it, and you kind of realize through that drill that wherever you are in life, whatever you're interested, whoever you define yourself as, those micro blocks of who you define yourself, you're a part of a community that does that thing. And as
yeah.
we know, as we said, and obviously if anyone is doubting it, they should try it. When you're doing something as part of a group, as a community with a common purpose, there is no comparison as far as doing it on your own. So
Yeah, well,
uh,
if you fully align with even if we all have the same message and the same product, the way we share it is very different because we use our own experience. So as long as we're not trying to mimic anybody,
yeah,
then we will always the delivery will be always different. That's the whole point, right? It would lands differently with different people.
yeah, for sure. So how did you kind of choose the experts that you're bringing on? Is it people that you're most resonating with, or how did you choose the people that you're working with?
Honestly, it's not as hard as it might seem because
Mm-hmm.
my goal is to like pick the best expert in the particular field. And I think the moment you dive into certain areas, it's becoming very clear who's like the leading expert. And so it's really interesting because like people are expert the biggest in what they do for many different reasons. Some of it could be marketing, right? Like same with
Yeah,
skincare. So just like listening to, for me, like what I admire in people is the ability to critically think and just seeing both sides of the story,
yeah,
and seeing the gray areas of like how it's not just black and white. And I think whenever I see somebody that is very black and white and very like what would be the right word without sounding too aggressive, but just like the one my way or the highway,
yeah,
that I know it's like, okay, like this is someone's trying to just like market themselves,
yeah,
for whatever reason. So that I think the more you are in sit whether in biohacking or in and eating, you just realize there's so many things that go into play that just having that humility. And I think the true master and the true experts understand that and have a lot of humility when speaking about certain topics, and understanding the complexity of each thing.
absolutely, absolutely. I think it's not sexy, maybe to go over complexity, to say, that's as far as we know the best strategy or whatever that is. That's what we've learned until now. It's way less sexy and way less, um, you know, cool than just saying, I got the perfect thing for you. You'll never need to do anything again for the next 1,000 years because you listened to me
Yeah,
for one day. Yeah, that's obviously, again, we were, as you said about the $400 cream, we've always made, any one of us has made decisions uh, hoping for a silver bullet,
yeah,
um, and realized that the journey is the silver bullet, and as you say.
beautiful.
And
Yeah,
yeah, so again, you know cultivating habits and committing to the journey, to me, is definitely the most important in anything
beautiful.
that you do. Let's talk a little bit about what you do day to day as far as biohacking. You did mention red light. Do you have any other things that you're like obsessed with that you try to do often?
Oh my
What's
god,
your biohacking
so
look like?
many, so many. I wake up in the morning. I have my M&M. I meditate. I do breath work. For me, like breath work is one of the biggest biohacks out there.
Yeah.
It's the amount, the degree it changes your state too is incredible. And I think it's just like it's the cheapest drug, breath,
Mm-hmm.
that and water. Then I go to the gym. I meet Arnold Schwarzenegger every day at the Gold's Gym.
Yeah, I saw the
Yeah, every
stories.
day, literally. I was like, yo, like there's, and the one day I don't see him, I see him riding a bike in front of my house, or
Hmm.
like it's actually quite incredible how often I see him. Like definitely more than any of my family and friends, because he's there at the gym every day. And when I don't do weight, I go for a run or whatever. Like, I just that part of me that shows up and gets my body moving first thing in the morning. Then I work, on what I love, on my purpose, which is like a big part of it. I make sure, like right now, it's midday, so this is my time where I'm just gonna go out and be in the sun for a little bit, right? So
Hmm.
it's like they say, oh, midday sun. I'm like, I'm gonna be in the shade, but I need to like recharge my batteries, right? Of
Yeah,
sitting inside after a couple of hours, which is again massively overlooked. And I always like to say we're planned with complicated emotions, and
yeah,
we need sun. The plant is dying, and it's like, okay, like just get it some water, some sun, and it's gonna be all right for most
yeah,
for most part. And so doing that, one of my biggest biohacks is having a pet peanut butter, because it's like the microbiome that he's supporting me, the level of play that he's always available for, and the importance of nap and prioritizing rest. He's just like belly up in the
yeah,
corner. So that's like like it's just like the most beautiful thing, right? This source of pets are such a great reminder that we're all really here to play, and to snuggle. Like it really
yeah,
is the two things that we're here for. And eat good food. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
dogs have it nailed down. They're like, "What are you doing, human? You're just wasting your time for most of the time of the day."
Exactly.
I do love red light. I do love a cold shower in the morning, and then do my ice bowl if possible, to help with the swelling. I love having a warm bath before going to bed. It's also good for your lymphatic system.
Yeah,
And yeah, I love my supplements, and it's just like, yeah, meditation twice a day, breath work. Um, Apollo, I do like. There is an app called Newcom with binaural beats that help me
yeah,
relax. So
yeah.
these are just like,
I love Nucom. I prefer if I'm in my in my house. I connect more with Brain Tap just because there's the visual aspect, the flashing lights in the
mm,
eyes. But both of them, since we travel a lot, and I'm sure you would resonate. Nucom is I mean, it's invisible. It's in your phone, but it is one of the strongest biohacks that I can
yeah.
think of. I'm
100%.
really
Plus, I like
addicted.
the music part of it. I was like, the music actually kind of dope.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I couldn't recommend it more. So that's kind of something I super resonate with. Do you do anything? Do you still travel often?
Yes. So I usually travel like 300 days out of a year.
Wow.
So just recently I have been home a little bit, just like resetting my stuff in LA. So it's I love it, right? I love being in nature. I love exploring the world, and so hope definitely need to buy. I don't get to do as many things when I travel, but at the
Yeah.
same time, like these things actually matter even more so, because you need that routine to get your body into like the calm nervous system state.
Yeah, again, yeah, and that's definitely condensing or really supercharging your learning curve, because you can
Mm,
really you do go through a lot with traveling, whether it is Sadhguru talks about how it's the most stressful for the spine, and that you should take care of your spine when you travel. Obviously, like radiation, your skin, your the exposure to blue lights. Like there are so many things
yeah.
that travel exposes if your health is not optimal. That I feel like is definitely a journey within a journey, like keeping healthy, and not to talk about diet. But yeah, Aggie, listen, this was a fantastic
Thank you so much.
podcast. I feel like we can talk for hours, and we should definitely do maybe a podcast specifically about like biohacking while traveling. I feel like,
Yeah, that would be great actually.
yeah, so let's plan that. But I super appreciate your time. I want you to, because we've not I haven't followed you for a long time, but the time I followed you, that's one of my favorite accounts. I have
Oh,
to
really?
admit.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So do me a favor and tell our audience how they can find you, how they can learn more about the challenge, which obviously that's going to serve us. Anyone who's going to do the challenge is going to get better skin in the end, and they're going to think it's our products. So it's serving us fantastically. Yeah, what's the best way to get exposed to you?
Okay, cool. So you can follow me on Instagram at Aggie. That's where my main account is. I also have two more accounts. One is called Higher Self Academy, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
home for all of my courses and challenges. This is a space for women to get together and just be reminded of their power. And I also have my own podcast called Biohacking Bestie, which is quite a similar name. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
And that's where I basically get to chat to experts like yourself about biohacking and more so. So these are the three spots that you can find me at.
Fantastic. Yeah, and we'll have everything in the description of this podcast together with power sold out sections that you can jump back and forward to if you wanted to invest more time learning about something specific that we talked about here today. So again, super highly recommended challenge to take. I hope many of you go ahead and do that. And yeah, Aggie, that was fantastic. I
Thank
look
you so
forward
much.
to seeing you in the biohacking conference
Yes,
in
yeah,
June.
I'll see you there. I'm
All
excited to
right.
connect in person.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Take care.